There we go. I'm like, all right, isn't it working?
They're used to Tuesday, Thursdays.
I know. We are switching to Wednesdays, folks.
Hi, Kim. Jerry.
Hi, Nikki. Let us know where you're watching from.
There they are.
Hi, Rick. Connecticut.
Jerry's been saving jokes.
I was like, holy cow.
Don't give them away.
Send us in a private message so we can use those.
All right, good group here.
All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. We have a special guest, one of our own today. Dr. Tony Hawkins is with us, and he is our tech service veterinarian. And we're going to talk about calving season and how to get your calves off to the best possible start.
Be sure if you have any questions, please get those in the comments. And then at the end of this segment, we are going to give away a prize to somebody. So any questions you have, put them in there because Dr. Tony's here to answer all of those for you. And with that, we are going to turn it over to you.
Okay. Hi, folks. How are you all doing today? So like they said, we're going to talk about calving today. And if you have any questions, please type them in. I think it would work better if this was more interactive. So I guess to start things off with, I'll just kind of explain my role here a little bit. I'm on the technical services side of things, like they mentioned. And so if you guys have any questions for me, related to vaccine protocols, general treatment recommendations, product selection, things like that, I'm available to help you with those issues. So you'll call our normal customer service line, and if it's above what they're comfortable answering, then they'll transfer that to me. So I don't see any questions yet. I guess what I'll start out with here, we'll go ahead and start off with maybe talking about colostrum ingestion in these calves. That's probably one of the most important things to think about when we're talking about taking care of these newborn calves right away. Colostrum is very important for a variety of reasons. It provides these calves with their immediate source of immunity. These calves are not born with a very functional immune system, and they're not born with any immune memory that we develop over our lifetime. So they get those antibodies from their cow's colostrum. And it also provides a very concentrated source of energy to help keep them warm and so on and so forth. So within the first 12 hours of life, certainly, but ideally even within the first 4 to 6 hours of life, we would get some high quality colostrum into them. 3 to 4 quarts is going to be the ideal volume. And that's just going to really help jumpstart that calf and give it a good start. So that's a pretty important thing. If they get up and they nurse, that's ideal. That's the best. But sometimes we have to tube them and get some colostrum replacers or colostrum supplements into them so that we can help jumpstart that process. So that's something that is very important to think about when we're talking about taking care of these baby calves. Any questions from any of that? No? Oh, I see one here. When you have to bottle feed a calf, when is the best time to introduce feed? Yeah, that's a good question. I'm assuming we're talking about bottle feeding a calf that is not on a cow. And so we're hand bottle feeding it every day. As far as introducing feed, you can do that from a very early stage, believe it or not. And by that, I mean, you can introduce it right away, a couple weeks to a month old. You know, and what that does is it helps jumpstart the stomach, and that allows us to get them off of milk, which helps prevent a lot of issues with scours and diarrhea moving forward. So we have some different suggestions for you as far as that. There's some bottles that you can actually put dry feed pellets into, and it's got a special nipple on it that they'll try to nurse it and then get some pellets that they start chomping down on. So that helps jumpstart the stomach, and then also just leaving some high quality hay available, they'll start nibbling on that too. The general rule of thumb, when they're eating 2 pounds of dry food per day, then you can go ahead and wean them off of the milk and then just switch to dry food completely. So hopefully that answers your question, Kim. When we're talking about colostrum, I kind of made mention of it, but we've got colostrum supplements and we've got colostrum replacers. Okay, and there is a difference. The replacers, they have a much higher level of antibodies in them, usually about double than the colostrum supplements. They're both very good sources of energy, but if your calf doesn't get any colostrum, then we'd want to get one of the replacers in them. If your calf maybe sucks a little bit from the mama cow, but you're just unsure that it really got a high quality or a lot, then you would probably feed it the supplement to try to get some extra antibody into it. As a side note, calves can't absorb the immune antibodies from colostrum after 24 hours. So it really does no good to do that after 24 hours of age. So
How can I help ensure high quality colostrum in my cows?
that's a good question. If you didn't hear the question, it was how can I help to ensure high quality colostrum in my cows? And for that, we really want to talk about vaccine protocols in your cows. We want to ensure a good vaccine protocol pre-breeding, and then ideally you booster that at around preg check time, 6 to 7 months or so, to really booster that colostrum. And we want to use a 5-way combination product that has, you know, IBR, BVD, all the big viruses, and it helps to throw in you know, some lepto protection as well. So that's going to be the best way to ensure that our cows have high quality colostrum. So
What's the best way to warm a cold calf?
best way to warm a cold calf, that's a good question as well. And there's a couple of good ways. My favorite way is like a heated crate or a commercial heater. Those work very well. They're a lot more practical to use than, let's say, a hot water bath a lot of times. Because let's face it, when we're warming these calves up, a lot of times there's a lot of moisture with snow or in the ground with mud. So warm water baths, we have to take them indoors. We have to warm them up, and then we have to dry them off completely before we take them back out into the cold. And so it can be very labor intensive. These heating products, these crates, I guess you could call them, they dry them off as they warm them. And so that's an excellent benefit there. And another benefit is, you know, we're talking about them being in a very warm environment. And so they're actually breathing in warm air, which really helps to warm them internally as well. So that's my favorite way to do it. And as far as when we warm them up, you know, you really just have to think about your facilities, you know, windbreak availability, what the environmental conditions are like. If it's extreme enough, if it's practical, drying and warming every calf sometimes is necessary, you know, but on an individual basis, just kind of use your judgment. A cold calf is going to be slow. They're going to be a little lethargic. Maybe they don't want to stand up. And so if their nose feels cold or their extremities, like their feet or right above their feet, feel cold, then most likely they need to be warmed up. So get those calves in, warm them up, and then see how they're doing. Make sure they're okay before you turn back out with the cow. So
Looks like Mary
Mary has a question here. It's recommended calving kit to have on hand, and what should we have on hand in case they start to go downhill? Yeah, that's a good question, Mary. A recommended calving kit, it depends how comfortable you are with obstetrical work. So if you're comfortable helping the calving process, then we want to talk about calving chains would be a big part of the calving kit, and OB handles. So those are good things to have on hand. You want to have colostrum ready to have on hand. Something to disinfect the navel. So iodine or Vetericyn umbilical spray would be good products for that. Some products for calf resuscitation in case your calf is born and they really don't want to breathe. They make some calf resuscitation kits that work really well to really get these calves to breathing again when they come out, and to also clear their airways from all the fluid that can accumulate. So that's actually the calving process. As far as aftercare, umbilical infections are a real thing. Scours are a real thing. So maybe having some prescription antibiotics on hand in case you need to treat that. Speak with your veterinarian about that, about getting some prescriptions. Exceed or XNL are a couple of good ones that could be recommended for that. And then just some electrolyte packets to have on hand in case they start scouring or they get sick and don't want to nurse. You don't want them to get dehydrated. Beyond that, I mean, that's good stuff to have on hand. Beyond that, as issues come up, then you can usually get those. I might mention, I forgot, like OB sleeves or obstetrical lubrication if you're going to help with the calving process. So hopefully that answers your question. In case they start to go downhill, that's going to be the antibiotics and the electrolytes to keep them going, keep them hydrated, keep them from getting sick. Does anybody have any other questions? Good questions. Keep them coming. Very strange question, but what is the harm of trash that blows into pasture for cows and babies? No, that's not a strange question. I guess it depends what the trash is. If it's blowing in, I'm assuming it's like a plastic bag or something of that sort, like a paper product, something. And there is some danger in that. If the animal eats it, which cows are notorious for doing, then it can actually cause like an obstruction. And it can be pretty harmful for them. It can cause some chronic bloating issues. It can cause an intestinal obstruction and blockage. So, it's just important to try to keep that stuff picked up. Other kinds of trash issues, like wire or metal trash that gets mixed into a ration. If you're grinding feed or, feeding out of a tire feeder, those can cause some issues called hardware disease, where they actually poke through the stomach. It can cause peritonitis. It can cause infection around the heart. So just try to keep your feed clean, as best as you can, so we can avoid some of those issues. Rick asks, how young can you give a calf antibiotics? Good question, Rick. You can give a newborn calf antibiotics. A lot of times there's no need to give a newborn calf antibiotics. It's a treatment. It's not necessarily viewed as a prevention. So there's no danger if there's an indication for it as far as age goes, but we want to wait until we actually are sure that they're necessary, so that we don't run into some issues with antimicrobial resistance. Brett asks, if I freeze colostrum from cow that had stillborn, how long will it be good? That's a good question, Brett. the freezing and thawing of that colostrum can actually affect your antibodies. And so, if possible, I wouldn't recommend the freezing. That being said, it's the actual freezing and thawing process. So you're going to have some diminishing effect of those antibodies. But if you freeze it, then it'll store, pretty well indefinitely, within good reason, until you need to thaw that. So if you need to freeze it to store it, then I'd say you could safely keep it for the rest of that calving season and then thaw it if you need. I might recommend, though, if you need to keep some on hand, that you maybe think about these powder products that you can mix and use. I think you'd be happier and that'd be more effective for you. So I worry about it affecting the structure of those antibodies, and so they wouldn't be effective anymore. Donna asks, if a calf loses its mother, how long do you need to give colostrum? Good question, Donna. So you only need to give colostrum one time. They absorb colostrum, and then they're able to use that antibody in their bloodstream for the first 4 to 6 months of life. You want to get that colostrum into them, like I mentioned earlier, ideally within the first 4 to 6 hours of life, but most definitely within the first 12 hours of life. And then after 24 hours, they can't absorb the antibodies from colostrum anymore. So you need to give 3 to 4 quarts of good quality colostrum in that time frame, and you only need to do that one time. Now, there are people that they will give colostrum supplements to like sick calves, and that's okay because they're a very good source of energy and fat and protein. And so it does help to jumpstart those sick calves. It can be effective, but they won't get any of the benefit from the antibodies if that's what your goal is. Okay, so Mary asks, as a vet, what is the best time for a heifer to have a calf? Mary, if you could maybe type in something that clarifies that a little bit. Are you talking the time of the year, or are you talking, like how long to wait until we intervene? I guess I could touch on both of those. But let me ask Jenny's question first, and then if you want to clarify that, I'll come back to it. Jenny asks, for cows calving in the summer months, how do we best prevent fly strike from occurring? That's a good question. And those fly sprays are going to be your best route to go there. Topically applied fly sprays, and doing that on a regular basis. Sometimes flies can really go after the ears, and so like an ointment that you rub onto the ears is effective. And then just keeping them healthy so they're not scouring and getting all of that manure packed into the hair and hide around the anal opening there, helps prevent some maggot issues. So fly sprays are going to be your biggest ally there. Mary says season. So the best season for a heifer to have a calf. Yeah, that's a good question. I think that it really all depends on, your management and what you've got going on with your operation. So as a rule of thumb, you want your heifers to calve ideally about 30 days before your cows calve. And so that gives them time to raise that calf and then have time to start cycling and get bred within the next calving season of your cows. Heifers, it's their first calf, and so they need a little bit longer of a time period to heal up and start cycling again to get bred. And then they're still growing themselves, and they're also nursing a calf. And so they have a lot of energy expenditure. And so giving them that extra month is a lot of times very helpful and ensuring that they get bred at the same time that your cows do, and so they don't fall behind. So, I like to recommend that time period of 30 days, trying to make sure your heifers are calved 30 days before your cows. As far as what season, I mean, I know there's a lot of people moving to early summer calving, May 1st calving, June 1st. And if that works for you, then I think that's great. It's a great time of year to have a calf because they're nursing when the grass is providing a really high level of nutrients. So it's a lot less supplemental feed. So that's a good time. Fall calving is for a lot of people. It's a good time to calve. And by that, I mean, September, October, November. A lot of times that fits in people's management style. But there are still a lot of people that are calving in January, February, and it takes a little bit more management, I guess, at that time period. And you got to make sure your calves are warm. You got to make sure, got to watch them for scour issues. You got to feed on a regular basis your cows, and it takes quite a bit when they're nursing their calves. So I know I kind of jumped around there, but hopefully that answers your question as far as the season to calve out your heifers. No more new questions. Okay, so since we're talking about calving, I kind of alluded to it earlier with Mary's question. As far as when to intervene if things aren't going like you think they should be. With a heifer, I'll probably give her an hour. And then that's from when I see her starting, either see signs that she's in calving, like her tail is kinked up or she's pacing around, or you see some obvious, membranes hanging out, or you even see the calf's head and nose. So I'll give her an hour. If she doesn't have the calf, then I'm reaching in and I'm seeing why. Is it too big? Do we need to deliver by cesarean or something not quite lined up? And so I'll give her an hour. Now cows, they should be quicker. And so if I see a cow actively calving and we don't have a calf within 30 minutes, if she's, really down pushing, trying to get it out, then we need to see why. So. All right. Well, I think they're jumping back in here. We had a lot of fun today. If you guys ever have any questions for me, please give me a call. I'm happy to talk with you. You guys have a good rest of your day. Thanks.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
All right. I think we're ready to draw a couple of winners. Any more questions?
One there.
Oh, there's some more.
There was another one.
One
more. Do you recommend giving cows a mineral tube before calving time?
Mineral tub.
I'll jump
Or
back on
mineral
here.
tub, sorry.
A mineral tub?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I think, are you talking about a tube, like a mineral tube that you give orally to every cow? You can. It's pretty labor intensive. I think that maybe the better way to go is just have some free choice mineral available, or like a high quality lick tub with minerals in it. So you might be talking about like a calcium, a tub, she says, she clarified tub. Okay. Yeah, like a mineral tub, like a molasses lick tub. That's a really good thing to have available. A lot of times it's the added benefit, they have protein levels in them, which helps support lactation. So that's a good thing to have available for them. Yeah, if you're dealing with problems with milk fever, a lot of times when cows freshen, and this is mostly a dairy cow thing, a lot of times they will give them like a calcium tube after they calve, but usually with beef cows, we don't have to worry about that as much. So yes, Carla, I do think that that's a good idea to have a lick tub available for those cows to get extra protein and minerals. So Renee has a question here. if a cow is showing signs of low copper, but has full access to loose mineral, what do you suggest? That's a really good question, Renee, and actually, especially after calving. And actually, that's becoming very common. We've done a lot of liver biopsies on cows here locally, and it's a problem, and I guess we don't really know why. So I suggest an injectable form of copper. Multi-min is the only one that I know of, and I think giving cows injectable multi-min twice a year is actually really good practice, and it's got copper, selenium, manganese, and zinc. Very important trace minerals for a lot of different functions: immune system, reproduction, etc. So if we keep those cows levels high enough, the goal is that it would then transfer to the calf and help them with those functions as well. So hopefully that answers your question, Renee. Mary has a question. My better half wants to know, if you have full-size heifer and want to breed it with a mixture cow, what are pros and cons for calving? A miniature cow, a full-size heifer, and want to breed it with a miniature cow. So maybe a miniature bull, is that what you mean? Breed a full-size heifer with a miniature bull? Yeah, I don't know that I'm going to have a lot of information on that one, because a lot of it depends on what kind of size calves we're talking about. On the pelvic size of the heifer, and what the EPDs might be on the calving ease and calf size on that bull. So I would just advise you to pay some attention to that. Maybe get a pelvic exam done on your heifer and think about the EPDs on that bull. If it's a small bull, miniature bull on a full-size heifer, I would think that you should probably be okay, but I can't tell you for certain on that. So, okay, well, I think that's it for questions. Thanks, guys.
Thanks again.
Hey, if you have any more questions and you didn't get them answered, just go ahead and leave them in the comments. We will get with Dr. Tony and we'll get them answered for you. Because if you're like me, you always think of a question after the fact, and that's okay, because we can still get them answered for you.
I wanted to let you guys know right now, we were going over calving stuff, so we have 10% off Colostrum products, Lifeline Colostrum products. So go check that out. We also have free shipping on a couple calf pullers. And also make sure you are signed up for emails, because next week, I know there's a lot more calving specials coming up.
All right, we're going to draw some winners.
All right, so we're going to give away a couple gift cards, $10 gift cards. So the first winner is Brett Dawson.
Congratulations, Brett.
And the second winner is Kim White.
Woo-hoo. All right, one more thing before we leave. Join us next Wednesday, February 2nd. We are going to be live with our friends from Piranha. We're going to be talking about how you can keep your barn or your backyard fly-free this summer and be among the first to hear about a very big giveaway. So,
All right.
that's it.
That's it. Is that
Thank you all
everything?
for joining.
Thank you. We'll see you next